Hi, my name is Asif Mian. I'm one of the Queens Museum-Jerome Foundation Emerging Artists Fellows for 2020. I was very fortunate to have moved my apartment and my studio basically a month before everything got halted because of COVID. It's on a one floor of this small building, and basically all the artists here are pretty responsible in social distancing and wearing masks and all that so that we could still have the ability to come to our studios during this time of extreme isolation. So I had already started quite a bit of planning for the solo gallery show for the Queens Museum. So it was a lot of drawing and sketching and planning. Part of moving into this beautiful new studio was to start to engage with sculptural materials and start to make larger works. Obviously, with the shift or psychological shift that happened with COVID and everything happening immediately around us, I kind of changed my approach, working very small, very intimately, and turned to like the really basic small elements that I thought would run through all the works in the show. And you can see like I've been doing a lot of sketching, a lot of drawing, a lot of planning. I feel like it's been hard to get materials with everything being limited. So working small, working on a lot of drawings, working on a lot of things that I still can manipulate with my hands, but that will lead to larger works later, I think became the way that I can sort of plan and digest like what I want to do for this show and how to plan the space as well. And one of the major elements, or the major element running through all of the works, is red and black plaid fabric, or red and black plaid shirts. This is part of the Raft project that I've been working on, a meta project that encompasses video, sculpture, performance, drawing, collage. So one of the most intimate actions that takes place with these works is where I take red and black plaid fabric and pull apart each thread slowly and with these sort of like dentist tools or sculpting tools. I call these releases because out of it, sort of these fabric drawings, these thread drawings are released as they're pulled apart. And this sort of action, this sort of really intimate, small works that release into something larger and more expressive, I found to be like the kind of the undercurrent behind larger works like the rug works, and then other ones I'm still planning out that will be using car parts and weightlifting equipment that I will also be pulling apart and cutting apart. I felt like working in this really kind of intimate, small way was just maybe some sort of mechanism of control with everything going on around, being kind of isolated in my movements and who I interacted with. But this led to just a lot of experiments going on, and with carving foam, with, like I said, the textile works and the rug works, also with aluminum and metal, collage. So with Teenager, I started shooting myself performing inside the studio right before the protest had started. So I kind of paused and like, which is something don't normally do, but I had the footage and everything, and I just kind of like let it sink in for a few weeks, emerge with a sort of narrative that converged this sort of virus of COVID and the virus of systemic racism and the protests and everything going on into kind of the story behind a Teenager, where this sort of science fiction dream I had where sweating is illegal. So I'm going to continue this sort of series of rug works I've done in the past with two new rugs for this show. And I started one which is going to splice an Afghan tribal rug, which I've done in the past, with a wall-to-wall sort of carpeting rug that you would find kind of anywhere in the US. And again, this sort of separation that I was doing with the plaid is coming through as I work with this new rug piece, as pulling kind of characters and architecture out of this Afghan rug, and they're being pulled out and kind of used as sort of storytelling elements, and they will be preserved into the pile of the teal rug, this sort of wall-to-wall carpeting rug. Some other ways I've been connecting that I thought was definitely beneficial for me, and I hope for others, were like I gave some studio visits aside from the Queens Museum curators, but also with some classes. Another thing is like I wanted to, in whatever way I could, was help people maybe with something that I've been practicing for many years, which is meditation. So I've been doing a weekly guided meditation with the Skowhegan Alliance. I think they got to a point where I felt like I needed to start moving and expanding outward, and as much as I can, I definitely really relied on my bike, traveling through Queens, Brooklyn, from parks to different areas, trying to connect with people just by meeting on bikes or riding bikes. That's become a daily thing that just sort of like brings me out of interiors and into the exteriors. And as the sort of Black Lives Matter movement definitely took form in New York, there was a lot of bike protests, and I was participating with protests in the best way I know, which is like rolling on a bike. Felt more empowered by that, just being able to move in something that's really kind of normal to me. I've been riding for, I don't know, at least a dozen years through New York.